So on February 1st, Brian Flores filed a lawsuit against the NFL, against specifically the Miami Dolphins, the Denver Broncos, and the New York Giants, and the NFL as a whole for what he believes is discrimination in the hiring process for head coaches and things of that nature. And what is public, he says that the Miami Dolphins offered him $100,000 for every game that he lost. He also said that the GM was kind of pressuring him. The GM or the owner, I'm trying to see. I have the GM written down. So the GM, Stephen Ross. That's the GM? Maybe I got that wrong. But like, he said that whoever, this Stephen Ross character, said that he was kind of pressuring him to go get a quarterback, like go recruit a prominent quarterback, which is a violation of the league's tampering rules. He believes, and he also believes that, and this is kind of the big one, that the New York Giants, a team that he was interviewing for, he believes that they already had their guy in Brian DeBull, and he was just kind of there to fill in the NFL's Rooney Rule. And which was tipped off by Bill Belichick, because I would love to believe that the change in the NFL is coming from a man that doesn't really know how to name people in his phone. Like Bill Belichick sees some of the most complex defenses and offenses ever, and this whole thing is started because Bill Belichick he texted the wrong Brian. For many people, sports is an escape and a way to disengage from the injustices and wickedness that plagues the world. Sports is a great way to judge what a fair world would look like. It's true to everyone who plays a sport is gifted and or privileged in some regard, whether blessed to be a part of a family or community that will nurture their talents the right way, or just being blessed to have good genetics that makes a sports career a realistic possibility. But at the end, I want to say that the majority of athletes earned it by working extremely hard on their craft, and if you are good enough, it shouldn't matter about your race, gender, religious background, sexual orientation. You get the point. This should also be for coaching, but people who follow the NFL yearly should know that a certain group of coaches, deck is clearly stacked against them from the start, which is how the NFL can have a high number of assistant coaches this past season, as the time of writing this, have only 2 black head coaches. Many times the conversations around topics like this, when it comes to organizations and their coaching hires, it always kind of falls into the same thing that, coaching should be judged based off merit and skill and, knowledge of the game and not race. And I agree. But what people fail to realize is that for black coaches, first chances are hard to come by, and second chances are damn near impossible to get. It falls into the mindset that, a lot of black people have, not just black head coaches, but black people in general have in America, of having to work twice as hard to get just half of what a white person has. This is also not about there not being enough black candidates, because that's not the case either. This is about how they're chosen and the situations that they're put into when getting positions, and the hidden criteria that is out there when they're hiring black coaches. It starts with the fact that many black coaches are put in positions where the team is in complete freefall or in the beginning stages of a rebuild, so they have to be downright excellent to justify their reasoning to be employed. While many other coaches, and I'll let you fill in the blanks, are given multiple chances without showing the production, or are brought in with already established teams or teams that are ready to take the next step in playoff success. In 2018, Steve Wilkes was fired by the Arizona Cardinals after 1 season and having the worst roster in the NFL, like rookie Josh Rosen with an offensive line or with no offensive line or competent anything. Okay, let me really put into context how dreadful this team was. They were dead last in points, yards per play, first downs, drives that end in any type of scoring, and offensive DVOA. They had this and tried to develop a rookie quarterback and a first-year head coach with a historically bad team. The Cards drafted Kyle Murray and shipped Rosen off to Miami and hired his college coach Cliff Kingsbury, who didn't register an above 500 record until his 3rd year. And that is also due to the fact that they traded for what is the best receiver in football, DeAndre Hopkins. And they also improved the roster in many other ways too. They brought in J.J. Watt. You get the point. Like they improved the roster by that time Cliff got a winning record. But anyways, this was similar to the situation Flores found himself in when he got the Dolphins head coaching job in 2018. He was given a roster that was in the middle of a retool, of a rebuild, and were giving so much of their talent away, they might as well just let every team they played every week a free touchdown off rip. Flores wasn't trying to lose, the team wasn't trying to lose, but GM Chris Greer wasn't putting them in a position to win either. There was a rumor that the organization pressured him to recruit a prominent quarterback, which would violate the tampering rules like I said earlier, which in Flores' defense would be a reason to be fired. It was clear as day with all the trades and that the product the Dolphins were going into the draft looking for a quarterback, but because Flores won too much, it jeopardized them getting the top pick, meaning Burrow was out of reach. However, Tua was still available, and apparently this was a guy Miami wanted all along, so all's well, I guess. However, he's still figuring out. And remember, Tua had a very dangerous injury in college, so his first year, you just want to see the mobility, the durability, and, can he make plays? And although there's still questions about his deep passing situations, the team itself is also not in its final form to help Tua out that much. There's still room to grow, and Flores coached this team well, and they're on the verge of a very fringe playoff berth if they hadn't started the season going 1-7 through the first 8 weeks. However, they turned it around and they had their first season of back-to-back winning records since 2003. So it was quite surprising when even overachieving wasn't enough to make sure Brian kept his job. And let's say Brian Flores did tank. Let's say he started to tank and he started to embrace the losing. He probably would have just gotten the Steve Wilkes treatment. He would have been laughed out of the league, he would have been fired, and his former employer would get the QB that they were going for, and just hire a new head coach who would get all the credit. The idea that black coaches having to be perfect to just, belong, to show that they belong, and the lack of diversity hires is one of the reasons why the NFL implemented the Rooney Rule, which manages that a team has to interview at least one minority applicant for head coaching and GM and assistant coach positions. You get the point. Now, has it worked? No. There's little evidence that shows that this has even really helped or not helped, but it actually shows some glaring loopholes that can arrive from this Rooney Rule. For starters, if these teams have the guy that they want all along, and yes, teams can change their mind or be blown away by a new candidate. That happens, but these are billion-dollar organizations. They know who they're scouting all year in college, in the market. They're looking for coaches just in case they get in the event that they need to hire a new one. So a lot of these teams may already have their guy, and they say, okay, let's just bring in this candidate and say, let's give him the interview, which, like I said, you don't have to. The reality is that it shows that there's a potential for sham interviews or token interviews, which is what Brian Flores is. This is what Brian is saying that both the Giants did when they had him do an interview, but they really wanted Brian to bowl anyway, which is what Bill Belichick said in the text messages. And this is what he said about the Denver Broncos, because when he said when he went to go interview for the Broncos, the then GM John Elway pulled up. He looked uninterested, and he also supposedly was hungover. The Broncos had denied this, by the way, and they said that they were actually pretty close to hiring Flores. So basically what I'm saying is that it's there that the Rooney Rule can honestly be used as a loophole just to fill up a quota when you don't really have to take a candidate seriously. This isn't me saying that Brian Flores could not have been fired, because although, yes, after week 8, their defense got better and they used a lot of run-pass options that really, helped Tua a lot. It really played up to Tua's strengths and played up to the team's strengths as well, because it made the offense a little more unpredictable. But one of the things that you could also really say, not even an issue, just something that happened, was that the Miami Dolphins got really lucky when it came to the schedule. They had arguably the easiest schedule after week 8. They played a whole bunch of teams that were ravaged by COVID and and injuries, or just a mixture of both. Like, I think for one of the examples, they played the Saints one week. They had no Breeze, no Winston, no Taysom Hill either. I think they were running like a 4th-string quarterback. I think his name was like Ian Book or something. So you can make the argument that their record was really not as impressive as as it would have been. You know what I'm saying? When you put the context, when you don't have the context with it versus when you have the context. Maybe they wanted a more offensive-oriented coach for Tua, but even though I don't believe that, you know, Brian Flores had any issues with Tua, maybe there is more potential elsewhere with another coach that comes from a scheme that, you know, is familiar and probably specializes in more schemes like the run-pass options that I said earlier, that could potentially help Tua even more and maximize the most out of him, while he still develops other aspects of his quarterback play and while the team itself improves as well. I can say all of this, but still say that Brian is tipping off a major problem that many fans that follow the league year by year say, and many black fans in particular say for a long time, that, you know, the firing of him and the firing of former Texans head coach David Culley show that the league does not levy the same opportunities for black coaches as they do for their, you know, white counterparts. Now, this could be for a bevy of reasons. Maybe this is a residue of what plagued black quarterbacks. The quarterback is the face of the organization, while the head coach is oftentimes the vocal leader of the team, and for many of these owners and GMs who make the decisions, having a black man be the face is something that can be intimidating. I know it sounds crazy, but like, this is the same NFL and same owners who had to settle a lawsuit that showed the practice of race norming. The idea that black players came in with less intelligence than their white peers, which was a reason to pay them less years later when it came to compensation due to concussions. I guarantee that leaks into the hiring of black coaches. Also, hiring coaches based off the experience of the player is not totally a deal breaker. Also, lots of owners tend to hire younger coaches that have a history of as offensive coordinators, and most black coaches and black coordinators are on the defensive side. Another thing could be nepotism, because being qualified and good at the job is not as impressive or not maybe as reliable. I think saying not as reliable is a better word here. Not as reliable as just knowing the right people. It could be trying to recreate the magic of Bill Belichick or now Sean McVay. Shit, one of the reasons Flores was hired was because he was a descendant from the Belichick coaching tree, similar to guys like Matt Patricia and Bill O'Brien. But trying to find the formula of what has worked in the past for others while being not willing to embrace the new changes in both schemes and identity. Now, as the time of recording, Brian Flores has gotten a new job as a defensive assistant and linebacker coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and given the nature of his lawsuit, I'm surprised he was picked up. This is close to what he did in New England, as he worked mostly on the defensive side and a position coach. Now, with a move like this, I have a doubt that he will get back into head coaching, but only time will tell. The NFL can paint end racism on helmets and end zones, but it does have a culture problem regarding black coaches, and until it's ready to truly challenge the ways it got here, all these rules and PR movements will always have no substance. Black coaches understand it. Black fans have talked about it. Brian Flores just shaded a light on it. Stay easy, stay safe. Talk to y'all in the next one.